Hello, I am Lincoln. Alongside with the release of Skyward Sword, Nintendo released Hyrule Historia, which is a book that talks about everything Legend of Zelda. Within that book, there is information about the Zelda timeline with a canon form of the Zelda timeline, and everybody hated that timeline, so now I'm making my own new one that is infinitely better. When making a Zelda timeline theory, it's always good to start in release order. So, from The Legend of Zelda, the sequel is always Zelda 2 because that's determined, and the prequel to Legend of Zelda is already determined to be A Link to the Past. Link's Awakening is always supposed to be a sequel to A Link to the Past, and now we've already got a pretty good startup for the timeline. Now, Ocarina of Time is always supposed to be the prequel to A Link to the Past, but in the official timeline, it seems to consider it that the hero of time dies, and then A Link to the Past happens. However, according to the developers of A Link to the Past, what is considered the imprisoning war isn't what happens after Link dies. Ocarina of Time is the imprisoning war. So, that determines that A Link to the Past's prequel has to be Ocarina of Time, and the Fallen Hero timeline doesn't exist. This still leaves us with a dilemma, because no matter what you do, there's always going to be two endings to Ocarina of Time. The ending in the adult timeline, where Link goes on as a hero, and there's the ending in the child timeline, where Link gets forgotten. So what timeline does A Link to the Past go to? Well, it's simple. They remember who the hero of time is, therefore it's the adult timeline. But the adult timeline is supposed to get flooded, so that doesn't make sense. Well, the information that we get telling us that the hero depicted in The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker's prologue is the hero of time is when it says directly that it's the hero of time. However, first of all, there isn't going to be any Zelda timeline without a little bit of contradiction and retcons. Nintendo has shown us that enough. And second of all, in the same exact prologue where it refers to Link as the hero of time, it refers to Link as the hero of legend, aka the hero from A Link to the Past. So I feel like it still works that after A Link to the Past's games, there will be the flood. Now we have to establish how we're combining the Fallen Hero timeline and the adult timeline. In timeline order, Oracle of Ages and Seasons take place simultaneously in between A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening. A Link Between Worlds takes place after Link's Awakening, and Echoes of Wisdom takes place after A Link Between Worlds. I will not be featuring Triforce Heroes in this timeline because it never happened and it doesn't exist. After Echoes of Wisdom, the Flood happens and Wind Waker takes place. After Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass happens, and Spirit Tracks happens. Rather than Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2 happening in a destroyed Hyrule, Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2 happen in a undeveloped Hyrule that is New Hyrule from Spirit Tracks. I feel like that works a lot better. And it would also make sense seeing as the Master Sword doesn't appear in Legend of Zelda, nor Zelda 2, because it's in Ganondorf's head at the bottom of the ocean. I feel like this is the best way to design the adult timeline, and it completely demolishes the Fallen Hero timeline. The child timeline stays the same: Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess Four Swords Adventures. So let's go before the timeline split. It, of course, always starts out with Skyward Sword. Now, here's our first dilemma. Zelda and Skyward Sword establishes the Kingdom of Hyrule. The first ever Princess Zelda is someone from Zelda 2, and Princess Sonia and Rauru establish the Kingdom of Hyrule. So how do we do this? Okay, so first of all, Skyward Sword Zelda never establishes the Kingdom of Hyrule. She says that she is going to. Perhaps they needed the Zonai's help to do that, and it would have happened a long time after Zelda had died. Then, after Sonia and Rauru dies, a relative of Sonia's would probably become the first ever Queen of Hyrule, and then her daughter would be named after Zelda from Tears of the Kingdom or from Skyward Sword, and she would be the first ever Princess Zelda from Zelda 2. Her ancestor, a few generations later, would of course be Zelda from the Minish Cap. After the Minish Cap happens, then Four Swords happens, and then Ocarina of Time happens. Okay, time for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Where does Tears of the Kingdom happen? Because I've already established that Tears of the Kingdom does happen, but I don't know when it happens. So let's find out. Breath of the Wild has Koroks. Koroks are adult timeline exclusive, because the Kokiri in the child timeline become the Orden village members, while in the adult timeline, only then did they become Koroks. But in the adult timeline, Hyrule gets flooded, and all of the Zoras become Rito. But here's what I'm thinking. Why do people think that Hyrule is the whole world? It only specifically says that Hyrule gets flooded. Beyond Hyrule, there's probably other oceans that didn't become dangerous, allowing Zoras to exist. As a matter of fact, in Tears of the Kingdom, it directly says that there are other domains that Zoras come from. And in Echoes of Wisdom, there are 2 different kinds of Zoras, so who's to say that Ocean Zoras and Ritos can't coexist? Which is why I say that the adult timeline is the best place for them to get put in. And that is my completed Legend of Zelda timeline. Now what this timeline has done is almost entirely just remove the Fallen Hero timeline and put Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom into their place. Putting Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom into their place is a reasonable thing to do, but why do I dislike the Fallen Hero timeline so much? Because unlike the child and adult timelines, which happen in the games, and are parallel universes off-branching from Ocarina of Time, the Fallen Hero timeline is a parallel universe of Ocarina of Time. In order for the child timeline to exist, the adult timeline has to exist, and vice versa. But the Fallen Hero timeline is quite literally just a parallel universe, not an off-branching universe. And I feel like that's the most lazy way they could have handled it. I much prefer this timeline that I've created today, and that is why I am sharing it with all of you.